Thank you for joining us for this sermon podcast from United Church on the Green, located in New Haven, Connecticut. No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are invited and welcome. If you enjoy this podcast and would like to learn more about our open and affirming ministry at United Church on the Green, please visit our website at unitednewhaven.org. Thank you.
Good morning. If no one has had a chance to tell you how very glad we are that you are here this morning at the United Church on the Green, hear me say again how very glad we are that you are here today. Welcome to all who have no church home, who need strength or who want to follow Christ, who have doubt or who do not believe. Welcome to new visitors and welcome to old friends. Welcome to children and welcome to grandparents, to mothers and to fathers and to single people. And welcome to families of all configurations, to young and to old, to believers and questioners, to questioning believers. Welcome to everyone. No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are more than welcome here. Will you pray with me, please? Oh, dear God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our Redeemer and our Creator. Amen. One of the things my twins loved to do when they were little, more than anything, was when it was a really rainy day, they would go out and they would put on their rubber boots, very much like Abigail's boots that she's wearing this morning. And they would go out and they would walk into that rain and they would find puddles. Oh, did they love puddles. And they would find mud, and being twins, they would take that mud and they would smear it all over each other and into their eyes, and it did not work the way the gospel did. It just made them very dirty and somewhat blind, and it made me very angry. But this is so different from our gospel dramatic reading, isn't it? In this story of the healing of the man that was born blind, there is healing and there is transformation. And it all comes out of mud, out of the messiest things in life, out of darkness, and it comes out of unbelief. The mud here is reminiscent of the water of baptism, and as you saw, when Dan brought out his walking stick and put his hand in the water and put it over his eyes, he could see. It leads to a new life, doesn't it, Dan? Your walking stick got put away and your glasses could come on and you could see. It is a contrast of sight and blindness, of belief and of unbelief. Now, this story was told to the early church so that the new Christians could identify with the images of seeing and not seeing, of believing and of not believing. As Catherine Matthews reminds us, they knew what it felt like to be driven out of a synagogue by religious authorities, to be expelled from their church home. They could connect their loss with a gain of grace in their powerful experience of conversion, of healing, of understanding, and of trust. John is reassuring them that indeed they were not alone. They now belong to a community that shared the same faith, and ultimately, just like the man in the story, they would encounter Jesus on the way. John uses the metaphor of being blind, of not seeing, to that of unbelief. As the man is given sight, he makes his way towards belief and understanding over the course of this story, as he has another personal encounter, you see, with a man named Jesus. He comes to perceive that past outward appearances to deep truth in the heart of him and of all things. The man born blind sees God's truth so much better than those who spend all their time studying and talking and trying to understand about God. while the other characters in the story remain at the end where they were at the very beginning of the story. The healed man's life, you see, is transformed. He finds himself in a very different place than he was at the beginning of this story. And Jesus is there in that very different place. The former beggar's openness and growing faith contrast sharply with the fearful, hesitant questions of his cynical neighbors and his downright judgmental reaction of the religious establishment. You see those Pharisees who were so blinded by their own rigidity of the law. And as you saw in the dramatic story that we presented, even his parents sided with the Pharisees out of fear of the Pharisees' great authority. The blind man's own parents. They cannot see that God is active in their midst. What an incredible pity. You know, once that blind man could see, for the first time in his life, he was able to put down that stick and see. But the parents and the Pharisees could not rejoice. Rather, they simply refused to acknowledge what they could clearly see with their own eyes. And not only that, Jesus, you see, had broken the religious law. He is healed on the Sabbath, so you see, he must be a sinner. He couldn't possibly be of God. What about the man born blind? As Matthew says, the man he healed claims to know only one thing, that though I was blind, now I can see. The Pharisees know that God has spoken to Moses, but as for this man, they didn't know where he had come from. The response of the healed man is brilliant, of course. I love what that phrase is, as he said, I have seen an astonishing thing. This man were not from God. He could do nothing. The man not only grasped the truth of things more clearly than the scholars did, but he could also do the math. And the Pharisees didn't appreciate the way the things added up, did they? This new thing that God has done transverses all the authority of the Pharisees and even the law itself, that sacred law that the Pharisees lived their lives by. And this man, Jesus, he obviously has broken it. They all fail to see the miraculous curing of the blindness for what it actually was. The contrast between sight and blindness stands in contrast to those of us who are born with sight, but who are unable to see what is right in front of us. Or if it even pertains to those of us who spend all our time only seeing things on the surface, not those very deeper aspects of life. You see, in those days there was a belief that if there was a deformity of any kind, it had to do with sin. Sin causes those defects. In John's Gospel, sin at its most basic level is not recognizing Jesus as God's Messiah, the person through whom God is at work to save the world. The tension in this story, remarks Matthews, comes from judgment, of course, and in the twists and the turns that judgment takes. The disciples see a blind man and right away wonder whose sin has caused this blindness. And they ask for a judgment about Jesus, about who is the real sinner here. Is it the blind man or is it his parents? The twist comes when Jesus' response to that question is neither. And uses this occasion outside the religious building and the religious rules to glorify God by healing the man. Jesus sees this as an opportunity to show the power and the glory of God and God's grace that is open to each and to every one of us. We we now see Jesus in full light as the Son of God who has come to bring sight and light to the world. He shows a God, you see, who is a loving, loving God. In fact, God loves us so much that, as we saw here in the dramatic reading, when Jesus heard that the man had been driven out, what did he do? He went looking for him. He left where he was and he went out looking for this man who had been ostracized. So you see, it's not a question then of whether and where it is we find Jesus. It is the question, where is it that Jesus will find us? So, dear people, how does this story speak to us today? I have read it so many times, but to watch it played out for us in a dramatic form brought it even more alive to me. Did it to you too? Did it?
Yes.
Because we saw the characters in real life, didn't we? Speaking to us. There is an essay by Annie Dillard called See, and she describes a person born blind whose life and sight was restored by surgery, a healing not unlike this week's gospel. Seeing the world with new vision was far harder than you might think. David Luce quotes Amy Frykholm, who writes, "The person had to reconcile preconceived notions of the world with objects and with colors and with distances. Much of what she saw simply felt wrong. A newly sighted person can easily get the messages and the meanings wrong, even though she has a radical new gift that has just been given her. This suggests a spiritual kind of sight as well as a physical, that a person having received a radical new gift might struggle to understand particularly how to use it. It can take work, and one that required the man born blind, and even us, following Jesus' call for transformation in a brand new way. David Luce reminds us of our own lack of sight. In the darkness of our own blindness, we are free to pretend that we don't see the suffering and the pain that is all around us. We think that we are not called to respond with love and with healing. Jesus, however, has not come to enable us to remain in the dark. He has come to bring sight to the blind, even those who believe they can already see. The bizarre grace of God, God doesn't remain at a distance from us. He enters into the muddiness of this world and gets his hands dirty for our sake. People, can we open our eyes and our hearts in compassion for those who suffer? For once we see Jesus, we are no longer free to be blind. We are called to see what is right in front of us. The hungry, the homeless, the displaced, the terrorized, the refugees, the immigrants, the marginalized. We no longer have the luxury to ignore those that are in need. We live in the light of God's love, when we, like the blind man, can see. Once I was blind, but now I see. We see not just physically, but we see through the eyes of people who hope in a coming kingdom of justice and of peace and love and equality. As Peter Lockhart comments, it is interesting to note that in his great hymn, Amazing Grace, which we will sing at the end of this service, John Newton captured the words of the blind man. The blindness from which he was set free was his blindness to the evils of the slave trade. Newton's encounter with Jesus, his healing from blindness, leads him to become an activist and an advocate in the context of the tyranny of his age and ours, slavery of every kind. So what are the issues of our day that God is calling us to respond to? How are we to live faithfully, seeing and hearing and obeying? That those questions remain with us this week. You see, people, it was out of mud, the messiness of this world, that Jesus used to clarify things for us all. Sight to replace our blindness to need, and a brilliant light to illumine places that magnify, where transformation for the neediest of this world cry out of darkness. You see, once we are blind, now, dear God, let us see. Amen.